I am going to share with you the most irritating quote that I have heard people repeat time and time again. And this, of course, comes from a gentleman at the World Economic Forum. His name is Klaus Schwab. Now, I don't know if this is the exact quote, but it's been quoted so many times it feels like it is. That is, you will own nothing and be happy. I have so many just deep reactions to this. I think it is some of the worst financial advice. If you believe that nonsense, you have already lost. You will own nothing and be happy. Are you freaking kidding me? That is such an irritating quote. Anna, when you hear that, I'm sure you've heard it. What were your initial reactions?
Oh, yes. I mean, it's socialism slash communism 101, right? It's the World Economic Forum. The globalists have been, calling for basically moving more toward a socialist system, the United Nations, et cetera, for a long time. And while that can be scary if you think about it, you also have to understand that things are changing in the world. They always will. Yes, there's things we don't like that global leaders want to do. Some people might like some of that, depending on your idea of what equality and equal opportunity versus equal outcomes. They don't want equal opportunity, which is what the US has with a capitalist society. They want equal outcomes, i.e., Michael, you made $1 million, you give me 500,000 of it, and I'm just going to say thank you, but I'm not going to do anything to work for it. So I'm taking from someone to give to someone else. So I don't like that. I don't think that is fair. I don't think that is just. But it is how a lot of our global leaders have thought and what they've been pushing for. Calls by Al Gore for the Great Reset during COVID. This is when Klaus Schwab said these things, right? I don't like it. But here's the thing. In order to move forward with your life, in order to create joy with what you control, you have to spend more time, Michael, focusing on what can I control today? What I'm going to either leave my future, my family's future to global leaders that have an agenda that I don't like, or I'm going to leave it to myself and at least make the best decisions I can for myself today to minimize the risks of that outcome. And I think that if you fill your mind with the negativity and the fear stuff all the time, you will become paralyzed with fear and you won't take action. You'll think, well, someone's going to take it away, so why do it, right? Or they're going to take care of me, so why work 2 jobs and work so hard? I've paid my dues, right? I've heard all these kinds of things. So if you want to have joy in your life and you want to take personal responsibility, you've got to spend little time worrying about those things. Know it. No, yes, it's a risk. If more leaders like this came up, yes, they could, eminent domain is something people have been afraid of, right? For example, taking your properties. Yes, these things could happen. But the same thing is, do you know they've been calling for these things, Michael, since before you and I were born?
Yeah.
Like I was born in 1974. So if you really go back and you look at the global leaders and the G20 and the UN, they've been calling to move towards socialist types of policies globally for 50 years, right? Give or take, like around my lifetime. And it hasn't happened yet. So if it happens, Michael, we're all toast, right? That's the reality. But if I had listened to all of that and been afraid to do any of that, I never would have ended up where I am today. So be careful how much time you spend listening to negativity and people saying, we're going to take everything you have.
Yeah, it's the reason that this sentence just structurally, it's not fact. The data doesn't support it. I'll say it again. You will own nothing and be happy. So let me translate that how my brain translated. I now believe there are asset owners and asset renters. If you don't own anything, you are automatically a renter. And I don't know how many bar charts you have to look at to see the difference between an asset owner net worth and an asset renter net worth. Year, a decade, 50 years. If it's not crystal clear to you that that owning assets for the long term is financially better, you're not paying attention. And the other point in your statement that I just absolutely love is no one's coming to save you, right? I think it was Ronald Reagan that once said the most dangerous words in the English language is "I'm here from the government to help," or something like that. I mean, folks, own your stuff. Stop looking for some outside force to make things better. History says it won't. It'll just bring everything down, right, to some kind of equilibrium. This is not what you want. You want to understand that doing the work, making some sacrifice. That's the thing. It's like sacrifice is not a 4-letter word, right?
Right.
You can choose to do it. And there's so much benefit. I mean, I talk to 15 millionaires every week on this channel, and they all have similar stories. They all made different choices, different sacrifices those first 5 years. Nobody knew if it was going to work, and it worked, right? Again, inflation's a feature, not a bug. If you understand that, if you understand that the US has this great thing called a 30-year fixed rate mortgage, that's a one-way bet on inflation. Rates go down, refund. Rates go up, who cares? It's mind-boggling to me that so many people quote this, "You'll own nothing and be happy." I'm like, you're going to be broke, right? You're going to be running on this hamster wheel, and as things inflate, you're going to get wrecked. You're never going to get ahead. It's just, it's irritating to me that people like are act like that's their strategic plan. I will own nothing. I'm like, really? So you're signing up to spend more money to live your life on purpose, right? Look ahead. Look at the next decade. Look at 2 decades. How does that end for you? I don't get it. It's mind-boggling.
It doesn't end well. I agree. I mean, having grown up in poverty, it's, yes, there are poor people who can be happy, right? Especially if you have a strong faith and what real wealth is not necessarily money. But I can tell you, when your daily survival depends on working 2 or 3 jobs because you can barely make ends meet, it is hard to be happy. You don't have time to focus on the things in life, the people in life that bring you joy, because every day is a struggle to live. I've been there. I've seen it. I've worked with inner city youth who have had way less than I did. And I've seen the outcomes, right? And what people go toward to do anything just to survive, just to make a little money. I went to Russia and served, with orphanages and small churches in Russia twice, just on the other side of communism. And the level of poverty, the sadness and stern faces on everybody's faces, there was so little joy. It was so dark because they had nothing. Do you think people that have nothing are generally happy and joyous because they're provided for? Absolutely not, because what they're provided is so little, while, the government, looks great and has opulent gold-plated churches and buildings and everything else, but the people have nothing. It's hard. Money doesn't make you happy, but money gives you options to make the challenges of life definitely easier. And then the other thing that I'll just say, when this is just a topic that I'm so passionate about, when you talk about what's going to happen on the other end of this, people that think I'm going to live on Social Security and Medicare, like, how's that working when your government can't even fund it for the next 5 years without changes? Like, one of the saddest things to me recently is I saw a woman who had to be 80 years old or older in the grocery store, learning to be a checker, really struggling. And I thought, she and her spouse, she was married, we talked a little bit, probably were living on Social Security and Medicare. Now their cost of living has gone up 25%, and she's forced to go back at work at 80 years old bagging groceries. It broke my heart, right? So we have to be able to do something else to change our financial picture, with as much as it is up to us to do that. So learning some financial literacy the earlier you can, taking personal responsibility, knowing that, yes, things are getting worse economically for a lot of people, while the top are getting richer, the poor are getting poorer in a lot of ways. You've got to understand no one's here to save you. And you've got to do as much as you can about it as early as you can and as often as you can to make sure that you and your family are okay.
Folks, at the end of the day, there are a couple of truths that you either believe or don't. You can be an asset owner or an asset renter. Look out in the future and tell me which one you want to be. Lastly, I said it so often, I printed a t-shirt. Inflation is a feature, not a bug. Learn how to use inflation to get rich. It is a great way to go. Anna, where can people find you?
Great. You can find me here every week on your show at social media, Anna Kelly, REI Mom. And for real estate coaching and consulting, you can find me at AnnaKellyInvesting.com.
Thank you so much.